There is a 15-year-old boy playing in the IPL right now with 776 runs this season only, and everyone in the country is celebrating.
और वैभव सूर्यवंशी बहुत अच्छा प्लेयर है, मतलब क्या खेला है 35 रन में, किस खेल के 5 साल में बाद किसकी 5 सेंचुरी है।
इनको नाम देना चाहूंगा भारत का लाल।
राजस्थान और गुजरात
आज राजस्थान को सपोर्ट कर रहे थे
लेकिन वैभव सूर्यवंशी सर एक सेकंड वैभव सूर्यवंशी
ओनली फॉर वैभव सूर्यवंशी, ओनली फॉर वैभव सूर्यवंशी।
But I am not, because we have seen what happens to teenage minds under this kind of pressure, and the science is not celebrating. Vaibhav Suryavanshi is not a normal cricketer, but let's be honest about what he also is. A teenager. A teenager whose brain is still developing literally. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision making, emotional regulation, handling pressure, doesn't finish forming until your mid 20s. He's performing at a level most adults never even reach, in an environment most adults couldn't even handle, and he's doing it with a brain that is by every neurological measure still incomplete. That's not an insult, that's biology. Today, I am going to break down 3 things that make Vaibhav Sooryavansh's case very interesting. Every generation produces a prodigy, someone who does things too early, too well, and too publicly. And every time, the public response follows the same psychological script. First, disbelief, then hype, then worship, then expectation, and then inevitably the fall narrative begins. This isn't pessimism, this is a documented pattern. In psychology, it's called the prodigy paradox. The very attention that rewards early talent becomes the force that threatens to destroy it. And here's why it happens. When a 15-year-old scores 776 runs in the IPL in one season, two things happen simultaneously in his brain. First, a massive dopamine reward. Success at this level, at this age, creates a neurochemical high that most people never experience in their entire lives. Second, and this is the part nobody talks about, his brain begins anchoring his identity to his performance. At 25, you can separate who you are from what you do. You have enough life experience to know that a bad season doesn't make you a bad person. But at 15, that separation barely exists. You are your performance. And that's the trap. Not the pressure from outside, or coaches, or media, or fans. But the real trap is internal. It's a teenage brain learning to define its entire self-worth through a cricket bat. I want to clear about something before we proceed further. I'm not saying that Vaibhav will definitely fail. I don't know that. And honestly, nobody does. I'm making this video because the conversation around him, the pure celebration without any concern, is what actually scares me. Because whether he thrives or struggles from here on depends almost entirely on one thing, and that is what we are getting into next. Psychologists who study prodigies across domains like sport, music, chess, and mathematics have identified one variable that predicts long-term survival more than any other. And it's not talent, it's not just coaching, it's not even just mental toughness, but it's the quality of psychological ecosystem around the prodigies. Specifically, do they have at least one relationship in their life that is completely disconnected from their performance? A parent who doesn't talk about cricket at dinner, a friend who knew them before the fame, a mentor who asks how they are feeling, not how they are playing. Research on burnout in young elite athletes across the world shows the same finding over and over. The ones who collapse aren't the ones with the most pressure. They are the ones with no psychological exit from the pressure. The question about Vaibhav isn't, is he talented enough? Everybody knows that. The actual question is the system around him, like the franchise, the family, the BCCI, and the media, understand that protecting his psychology is more important than optimizing his performance. Because if they get that right, we might be watching something generational. And if they get that wrong, we have seen how this story ends many times before. Here's what I keep coming back to when I think about Vaibhav Suryavanshi. We love prodigies in India. We worship early success. A 15-year-old scoring 776 runs is a story we want to believe in, because it tells us that greatness can come from anywhere at any age without waiting for permission. That's what Decoded Minds is here to do. Not hype, not highlights, but to study the psychological underneath inside a person. Next week, I'll decode a person whose mind works in a way you have never seen before. I'll see you there. Thank you.